My screen says it's streaming live on YouTube, Max.
We're good. We can start.
Okay, thank you. So we have present myself, Saran Pine Chair, and Freeman Zausner, Bruce Metrick, and Bob Butler. And Julie Kreiser is present but not showing on the video stream. And Max Johnston will be present in a minute on the video stream. And then so we do have a quorum. And in the audience, we have, is it Bill Vale? It's not Bill Vale.
Ben Vale.
Ben Vale. And there we go. So it is July 21st, 2020 at 3:06. And we do not have minutes to review because the last meeting we had was, the minutes were non-substantive. We were in executive session and there was nothing discussed. And I don't believe there were any public members. So are there any adjustments to the agenda?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. And under old business, we have additional members. Bob, maybe you want to start with that.
Well, Ben Vale had expressed an interest in being on the committee. Katie and I spoke with him, I think last Friday, was it, Ben?
Yes.
And Katie and I are going to recommend that Ben be appointed officially as a member of the committee. So today he's observing and participating as a member of the public. Ben is the last principal that served in AD Gray. And he lives within a stone's throw of the building. So he brings with him a lot of history, a lot of knowledge of the neighborhood, and an experience that is unique to him and none of us, of the other people on the committee. So I'm very glad that he's expressed a willingness to help us out.
Great, great. Do we have any other additional members? Or have we thought about other additional members in terms of what we might see to help round out the committee?
Julie, have we gotten any additional applications that you're aware of?
None that I'm aware of.
No, I haven't seen any either.
This is Freeman. Is there anybody, Julie or Bob or Bruce, we know that has residential real estate development experience that wouldn't have a conflict of interest?
Well, surely John Morris does. He wouldn't have a conflict, but I have no idea whether he has an interest in serving.
I think that would be a very bad idea.
The architects that are currently working with the town office to develop more efficient use of space might be people who are interested. They certainly have development experience. There are probably any number of a former member of the former chairman of the planning board, Chuck Campbell, might be interested. He certainly knows the school and the town.
What was that name again? Chuck White?
Chuck Campbell.
Campbell. Oh, okay.
I think we need to be very careful about who we think should be on, and we should probably ask for volunteers from the public if we're going to do that. And my concern with anybody connected with some of the other buildings in town is that that may put a very bad taste in the public's mouth.
Well, I'm not concerned about that. I know you may be, Julie. I'm more concerned about having diversity of opinions and thought on the table as we discuss
Which is probably why we should ask for volunteers.
I agree. I mean, I think we put the word out. It doesn't hurt to put it out again.
I don't think we've put the word out that we wanted volunteers. Yeah, I mean, we said it at a meeting, but I mean, if we're looking for very specific volunteers with a background, then I need to know what that background is and I can put it out.
Well, why don't we just, I'm not quite sure what you meant. Did you mean that the select board had talked about?
We're
Go ahead,
losing you,
Bruce.
Duran.
Yes, Corinne, you're gonna have to repeat what you said.
I said, I was asking Bob whether that was something that was discussed by the select board.
Yes, at our last meeting, when we opened it up for new membership or additional members. We didn't discuss specifically whom we were looking for in terms of background and experience. Just finding people who were interested and willing to volunteer is difficult enough.
Mm,
The select board does talk to those who submit applications. And I guess it's at that point that you take up the issue of relevant experience and so forth and have a discussion about it.
But I think people might be more apt to apply if they knew their set of talents was needed.
And Bruce, what were you going to say?
Two things. I think that one was Ben, welcome, and that we have one other member who's not with us. I don't know. Sorry, I thought the meeting started at 3:30, and it's Jan Minzy, right? Is on the committee also, but she couldn't join us today. So there's one other person that's not here. I think finding that set of skills, you know, in the town, somebody that's got residential real estate development experience and doesn't have a conflict of interest, you know, we could try that. I like the idea of opening it up for other volunteers. You know, I guess the select board has to announce that so that we just get that out there and then continue our work. But I think between Freeman and myself, we have development experience that deals with permitting, zoning, buildings, commercial buildings, industrial buildings. I have not done residential real estate development, but pretty much all the other stuff I've done, you know, in the private sector, where you have to go through all those paces and you know, not developing a bit for sale, but so I think we have some of that. We've got Saran's legal background, so I think we put the word out, but I don't think that stops us. I think we can always, if we find something really, really good, a proposal or two, we keep going. And if we really like something, we can always suggest that we get a consultant to review the final agreement or a set of final agreements that we think we come up with. And that would bring that perspective. And then, you know, you get it reviewed that way, and then you have no chance of conflict and a better chance that you'll get the skill set you want. Might have to pay a little bit for it. Because again, that's a pretty narrow filter you're going to draw from Walterboro, blah, 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 blah. So I guess I'm saying I wouldn't wait for that. We could try to get it, but I wouldn't hold up the work we're doing.
I agree.
Okay.
I mean, for example, we got information today from Max on the phase 2 environmental impact assessment. That's a big chunk to talk about and figure out what that means, over and apart from whatever kind of development is going to go on.
Okay. So I don't think we've come to a real conclusion, except maybe we will ask around. I think it would be up to the select board to, if they want to publicize this, and not us. Um, So we should move, is there any other old business? If not, let's move on to the new business and the scope of the committee that was determined by the select board on the 23rd of June. So Max, what specifically did the select board expand on?
I was gonna say Bob should probably be the one that the chair of the select board would probably be able to explain what is required or what the scope is now.
Yep. The idea was, because we've moved beyond just having discussions with Mr. Tim Wells about his project,
Mhm.
to broaden the scope of the committee to entertain other proposals, and possibly, if the committee deemed necessary, to recommend it to the select board, to create a request for proposals regarding the site, or sites, if you want to look at 3 different parcels: the ball field, the site between the high school and the school and the ball field, and the lot parcel that holds the school itself. And that's basically what the select board you did to expand the mandate of this committee.
And so that leads us into the discussion of an RFP,
Yep.
which we've talked about before. Oh, I'm sorry, Bruce.
So that was, just to be clear, so that was, you probably used the wrong word. That was a mandate. That's what the new charter is. We're going to go out on an RFP. It's not discuss the merits of it and get back. It's let's put an RFP together and go out.
No, not at all. That isn't, that's something for the committee to recommend, whether we even do an RFP.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Yep.
No, we have another proposal on the table, and that's something we need to look at and go back to the select board on. But at the same time, and connected with that conversation possibly, is discussion of the need for an RFP and what form that would take if
So
we decide to
I-
recommend it.
I missed I missed at least one meeting, I know, when I think there was a planner present whose name I'm going to not remember, that
Power,
Max knows,
Bill Maypower,
Bill
Maypower,
Maypower,
Maypower, yes.
and he was planner for Camden, is that right?
He was the planner for Waldeboro in the early 2010s.
Mhm.
Now he's the executive director for Mid-Coast Economic Development District,
Okay,
which includes the planning department in Rockport. and
okay, thank you. And did you not have a discussion with him about putting out an RFP for this property?
Me personally, or the
No,
whole,
the committee. I'm sorry. I missed a committee meeting when that gentleman was present. Was there not a discussion with him about that?
I recall the discussion being about what was done, I think in 2018, when, if I recall the timeline correctly, there was the proposal for the community center. And in one of those meetings, the select board wanted to market AD Gray for a year to see if there was any other interest. And after a year, there wasn't any initial interest. And then Tim Wells appeared, I think in the late spring, early summer, said, I'm going to develop an idea. And then that's what started everything, essentially. So
I don't recall. You were absent for that, and I think I chaired that meeting then. And I don't recall a specific, any details about doing an RFP, because if we started down that road, it got cut off because it wasn't on our mandate yet to do that from the select board.
Oh, okay.
I think that's how it got truncated.
Mm-hmm. Um, There was not an RFP in 2018. Is that correct, Max?
Correct. What Bill and I did was we personally went out to a bunch of developers who looked back in 2010 and said it just wasn't the right time. And we
Mhm.
approached them again, and they said, we'll take a look at it, and they just didn't. And we also kept talking with anyone we could who was looking at Waldeboro for anything, and said, please consider AD Gray. But there was no official RFP. It was more of just Bill and I just reaching out to the usual people.
So help me, when was the last time this was advertised as being available? I know the town advertised it, I think, or the town handed it over to a real estate broker and they advertised it, I believe, once or maybe twice. I think it was only once. Do you remember when that was?
When it was given to a realtor,
Yeah.
I think that was before my time.
Oh, it
That,
absolutely was before your time.
that
Oh.
was, I mean, I think that must have been when Bill was here
I think it was 2012.
Yeah, before the Y took it.
Okay, so that was at least 8 years ago. Could have been more. All right. So Freeman, did you have any comments?
Yeah, I would like to do an RFP because as a matter of public record now, we have two proposals from Tim Wells and Volunteers of America, both of which are a version of government subsidizing of housing, which is certainly a very important concept. But I also would like to look at the redevelopment of the site as homes. And what drives it is that I was just looking at the 2018 town book, and we've lost $30 million of assessed value just since fiscal year 2015 to 18. And I think we have to find a way to increase our assessed value and also to bring into the town, if we could, household incomes that would be consistent with creating the kind of consumer demand for restaurants and other services in the old historic district. And I don't necessarily see the household incomes in the plans we have before us, as good as those plans are, to actually help that aggregate demand for the historic district.
So the thing I'll just point out, if we are doing an RFP, Freeman, very quickly, you said the historic district, but the AD Gray isn't in the historic district, it's in the village.
Well, no, I'm talking, I'm probably not using the word. What I'm talking about is the downtown commercial
Right.
nexus, where we have our restaurants, our stores, our pharmacy, et cetera. So let me be more precise. To build that area up, you need more income and more demand.
What I will just say on the RFP is, I had it a minute ago. One thing that I would like to know ahead of time is if we're writing an RFP to say you can tear down the building, but you have to pay for it, or if you have to repurpose the building. Because right now, one thing I do want to move forward with is starting to do some historic designations on the National Registry. That does take some time. I know that Tim Wells and Volunteers of America have said they want to rehabilitate the building, but if we now do an RFP that says you can tear down the building if it means putting in some new homes, then that's something I would like to know, so I'm not spending too much time on.
Well, I can give two flavors. If I look at the map, you know, obviously you have a large piece of land with lot 30, which is the field.
Right.
Lot 62 is a large piece, and lot 63, which is the school and the tennis courts. They probably, looking at this, probably don't need more than at most 60% of lot 63 to do what they're talking about. So one flavor would be that you keep the school, and that we might have a hybrid where we go ahead with the subsidized housing for that half of lot 63. The rest of it we throw open to homes. But the alternative, and of course, this would be more emotional, would be what if someone said, I want all of it, and I will pay for not only tearing down the school, but any environmental remediation that may or may not be required. And it might be good to leave that option open before you finalize the historic certification, which would obviously then be an obviously major impediment.
No, that's what I mean. I want to know if the RFP that we put out is going to focus on rehabilitating it or demolishing.
Both. I would say both. I'd give flavors.
Okay.
Maybe someone doesn't need the entire 11 acres.
I guess we lost Saran, but
I am here. I'm here.
I think
just- all right.
building on what Freeman said and Max, I think this new, I know we didn't want to talk in detail about the phase 2 report, but that I think that changes the game, basically. In other words, we now know we have not just, if somebody wanted to either demolish or repurpose the building, the cost of doing that's got up. And I mean, I was, you should believe in data. I thought I had read where during the last remediation, any asbestos was taken out of those buildings. And it says, no, there's still asbestos and lead there. So
What was the date of that? What was the date of that you sent, Max?
About the recent environmental report,
Yeah.
that was something that they started doing. I think phase 2 started in April. And today I asked them if they had.
it was like June 20th, 3rd of this year. So it's very recent. It's less than a month old.
Yeah.
So why are we doing an environmental report right now? Well, I mean, has the town already paid for it?
The town didn't have to pay for it. This was all done through Lincoln County.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So at least that's what Mary Ellen has told us. It was done free.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, I don't know why on June 20, I don't know why I didn't get it when they initially finished it, but I did ask today, and they said, well, here it is. We don't know how it probably was an email issue, but.
I actually do not think it's a game changer, Bruce, because I seem to remember Tim Wells. I don't know whether Volunteers of America said this, but I seem to remember the other developer saying that, of course, he would have to do his own environmental assessment. And any environmental assessment that the town does, nobody's going to rely on that. So I don't see where it changes things.
Okay.
We're not going to make any warranties about, I mean, and the only thing that it does in my mind is, what did the town pay for back whenever it was in 2000 or 2012 or whatever to have the asbestos removed? Was there an environmental report then? What did it say? And did it miss this? What did we pay for?
The asbestos was removed from the building.
But
The
what?
environmental study we're talking about had to do with the property per se, not the building. And just having read the executive report, there appears to be an indication of some asbestos contamination, lead contamination, possibly oil contamination around the old school building and around what they call the little school. I haven't read the full report at this point in time to see any estimates of cost to clean it up. But I don't think the discussion of that report should drive today's conversation. And I'd like to build on what Freeman has said, and maybe with a little bit of a twist. And that is, we've had 2 serious proposals in 12 years regarding the school building and the property it sits on. One of those proposals raises doubts as to the ability of the developer to even begin, because he apparently doesn't have the money to do it. The other proposal comes from a well-financed, very experienced organization that has done this kind of thing numerous times, and Max and I had the opportunity to visit the Thomaston residents just last week, and it was very impressive. They know what they're doing. We could do a lot worse than to, at this point in time, bite the bullet on the building and the property it sits on, and sit down and discuss seriously with Volunteers of America, Northern New England, an arrangement whereby they would commit to undertake this project and the time they need to structure their financing for it. If we want to do an RFP, that doesn't preclude having the RFP focus on the ball field and on that parcel between the school and the ball field. And I guess what I'm suggesting is we commit to sitting down with Volunteers of America, Northern New England, and see how far we can take that conversation. And at the same time, develop an RFP for those other two parcels and put it to a vote of the town. See if the town is willing to go along with that idea regarding the development of the ball field and the adjacent parcel. And if they say yes, do an RFP, put it out there. We approve of the use of that land for that purpose. I guess Freeman's idea is to have single family residences on those two parcels. That's great. If it's voted down, well, we have our marching orders. The voters have spoken and we know what we can and shouldn't do. But I feel strongly that with this Volunteers of America, Northern New England on the table, we should pursue that and not make it part of any RFP that we might devise later on. They don't have to be mutually exclusive.
I'm not disagreeing with you, Bob, at all. But I do not understand, when this property was marketed, was that not via, was the town asked to vote on whether were the citizens asked to vote on whether the town would sell the property via a real estate broker?
We're talking about apples and oranges, Saran.
No, I'm
Came
not.
to the
I'm
school per
absolutely
se.
not.
When it came to the school per se, that's all we were marketing. We weren't marketing the baseball field and the property located between the school and the baseball field.
I understand that, but was that just the sale of the school? Was that put before the voters?
No,
It was not.
That would be something,
that was the prerogative of the select board.
that would be, when we, correct me if I'm wrong, Julie and Bob, but when there is the final decision of what to do with the property, that will then go to the voters. When there's a final concrete idea of what's going to be done with the property, whether it's going to go to Tim Wells or Volunteers of America, then it would go to when this committee has determined that and the contract details are finalized, then it would go to the voters.
That's a different issue, Max. And the select board has the authority to get rid of that school without going to the voters. We have that authority, but in the interest of unanimity within the town, once you come up with a plan for the school, and I'm only talking about the school here, it's probably not a bad idea to put it in front of the voters and ask them if they're okay with the plan that is eventually arranged.
I think I'm missing something then. So I'm missing something. Saran, what were you asking for about the broker?
Well, Bob said that we have two serious proposals, the first ones in
Correct.
12 years. And really what I was asking is, what has the town done for the last 12 years? And what did they do 12 years ago? Did the citizens vote to do anything with his property? I thought they did vote about the community center or about the Y coming into town. I thought there was a vote. There was certainly a survey of the citizens. Do you want a Y in the town at the AD Gray building? There was certainly that, but I take it there was no vote on that.
Nope.
And so the fact that there are two serious proposals now, that's great, except they were unsolicited. We haven't solicited for anything. We haven't asked anybody for anything. We haven't taken this out to the marketplace. That's what I'm really trying to say. You
Yeah,
don't
but-
know what the market is because you haven't asked the market to make you an offer. But I don't know, maybe you guys don't agree with me on that.
I think we went through that process 12 years ago and we got zilch and we offered it for nothing. And when you offer a building for basically $1 and say, come in here and give us a proposal, there's no upfront cost other than the planning you put into making the proposal. I think the market has spoken fairly loudly here and clearly.
Bob,
If you want to go through that process again, we can, but
Bob, I think what Saran's asking, and correct me if I'm wrong, Saran. Saran's saying, we said you can get it for nothing, but did we have a broker or did
yes,
we put okay, did we put ads in the paper?
yes.
Yeah, one ad.
Well, it would have got, I don't know how many ads there were, Saran. I wasn't on the board.
I
at
don't
the
think it was
time.
in the Boston newspapers. I think it was in the Portland Press and that was it.
That's
maybe-
probably true.
Maybe, that was what I saw. And it was not a very widespread ad. I'll put it that way. So I'm saying if
Okay.
there are 2 proposals now, there could be many more. And you just don't know because you haven't asked. And yeah, I don't think it would be to our detriment to put out an RFP.
Well, I'm gonna say yes, let's do it, but my argument is we should proceed with the school and the offer we have to pursue that and see where it leads us. If you want to do an RFP co-terminus do that for the other 2 parcels, let's do it. But I feel that a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush in this particular case.
So you would not put out an RFP and include the school in it?
No, I wouldn't. I would go ahead with what we have and sit down with these guys and try to put something together.
So
Their initial presentation to the planning board, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Max, was at least from the public, those who would watch the video after the meeting or were there during the meeting had constructive things to say. There was no apparent.
I'll say that right now. I mean, the AD Gray pre-application was last Wednesday. Obviously, I could get a call from a resident or 2 tomorrow, and they may say something. But so far, I had only 1 resident here in the town office, and I'm not counting the planning board member who's here, or the planning board members that gave their thoughts afterwards. There was, I know Susan Swed attended the meeting. I think there was a few others. I'd have to look at the recording again. I mean, when Tim Wells did his back in September, I didn't really hear anything until the next week when Lincoln County News ran an article on it. So I might not hear anything until Friday or next Monday when Lincoln County News will have run and Courier Gazette will have run an article saying Volunteers of America proposes this at AD Gray. So it's another apples and oranges. You know, people aren't watching the meetings as often as they say they will. They'll read it in the paper and then they're going to give me their opinions on it. So I don't think it's really fair to say no one has made any complaints yet. I've only had, I think, the Historical Society writing something saying, as long as the building's standing and you have that AD Gray school right on top, then we're all for this project. But I don't think there were that many. I'm expecting people to talk next week is what I'm getting at.
So maybe one solution to this with respect to the RFP is between now and our next meeting, our meeting in August. Several of the committee members should get together and make the start of an RFP to discuss more thoroughly at the next meeting.
Good idea.
But in the meantime, Ben, you raised your hand.
Oh, I didn't know if it was appropriate for me to ask a question or not.
Nope, you're
Of
free.
course.
Member
Well, I'm not on the committee yet. I'm just a member of the public.
for the audience.
So just for clarification, the third parcel where the old library was? Because you've mentioned 3 parcels, the building and the field. There's a third, what's the third parcel?
So the 3 parcels, to what my knowledge is, has always been the AD Gray building.
Yeah,
That includes that little triangle that's right across the street. The second
Oh.
parcel is what I call AD Gray Field, where it's
Yeah.
the blank field between AD Gray and the ball field. And then the third field is Philbrook Ball Field. All 3 are town-owned pieces of property.
The
so
third
the
parcel.
third parcel is the one across the street where the old building is down in the woods?
No. So the AD Gray building is
Yeah,
AD Gray tennis courts. That also includes the little triangle. So that's all one parcel.
okay, I got you.
And then the second one is the empty field.
Yeah,
Third one is Philbrook Ball Field.
okay, got you. So the parcel I wasn't getting was the one between the school and the ball field.
Correct.
Mhm.
Got you. Okay, thank you.
Is lot 63 with AD Gray, the tennis courts, has Volunteers of America said that they actually need or want the tennis courts?
I don't think they've said it's necessary. I think they said if they can save it, they would like to save them just because it's some recreation activity. Why?
Because if we're going to put an RFP, I would like, I think you're right that obviously the historical determination, designation of the building would mean you couldn't, you have to, that's a commitment. But unless they absolutely need the tennis courts, I would like to at least consider that as part of the RFP. You'd always break lot 63 and subdivide it, because that might make it more attractive to someone who is going to develop the other 2 parcels.
The tennis courts are part of the AD Gray lot.
I know, but you could split them off. There's nothing in real estate law, unless Saran tells me otherwise, that says why you can't change that.
Okay. I was wondering what you were saying with that.
So are there any other things to discuss on
The RFP.
the RFP? If not, then I move that we go into executive session.
Pursuant to 1 MRSA 4056C.
Yes,
Seconded.
thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So